Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the A.L.E Project. I'm attorney Melissa Miller. I'm here to talk about art, law, and entertainment. What is next on the slab? The Britney Spears conservatorship. I apologize for the delay in bringing this to y'all. This is one of the hardest I've ever had to write. But when I initially thought about writing about the conservatorship, I thought of all these catchphrases, right? How often is it that you have a judge by the name of Penny and an attorney by the name of Andrew Wallet, who was Britney Spears' attorney and no longer is her attorney? He stepped off the conservatorship. Those opportunities don't come along very often, but the more I thought about the conservatorship, the more sad I became. This is really a tough one to have to talk about, but we've had a lot of requests to talk about it. A lot of people who want an attorney's take on it. I must say I'm not a licensed attorney in California. I can only speak to South Carolina law, but I can make a couple of observations. And I think what intrigues us about this case, what really draws us to it, is we all know someone, right? A friend, or maybe even a family member, but more often than not, a friend or someone close to us who has a family member who is going through this or knows someone who is going through something they can identify with in this case. And we look to our stars to see how to behave, right? Unfortunately, folks, this is not the case you want to look at in terms of how to operate when a friend or family member needs a conservatorship. So here are a couple of things that I observe about the conservatorship. And again, I'm just making observations. I'm not here to provide legal advice on the case. But since you all want to hear the point of view I have on the conservatorship, let me make some observations. And I'm going to make just three, okay? So in South Carolina, we have guardianships and conservatorships. Guardianships may be appropriate where an individual adult cannot take care of themselves. Conservatorships may be appropriate where an individual cannot manage their finances. In California, conservatorships, and this is all public information, you can Google it, this is not attorney-specific information, but if you just go, it's worth a Google, give it a Google, conservatorships in California, those are set up, and this is from the court's website, those are set up where an individual cannot take care of themselves or their finances. So whereas we have two separate things in South Carolina that would be set up for an allegedly incapacitated adult, in California, there is only one thing. They lump it all into one. And that's called a conservatorship. Again, all public information. You can go to the California court's website and it will read as follows. A conservatorship is a court case where a judge appoints a responsible person or organization called a conservator to care for an adult called the conservatee who cannot care for himself or herself or manage his or her own finances. Now, I get appointed to these cases in South Carolina all the time, and in no case in South Carolina have I ever seen an individual who can work and make millions become a conservatee. That is a person who is under a conservatorship, as is Britney Spears. Maybe it's different in California. Not here to give legal advice. Again, maybe it's different in California, but my sources tell me it's not. And that's the real rub with this case, folks, is that Britney Spears would certainly be an aberration in South Carolina. And from what my sources tell me, she's an aberration in California. You simply don't see people who can earn money like Britney Spears subject to a conservatorship or becoming a conservatee, that is, under a conservatorship. You see people who inherit money all the time but don't know how to manage their finances become conservatees. But it's really very uncommon to have someone who is able to earn, very uncommon to have someone who's able to earn like Britney Spears under a conservatorship. So that's the really interesting aspect of this case, and I'll let you sit with that. I've watched every video, read every article related to this case. I won't say every, but almost everyone. And I have yet to have an answer as to why California would put a working, let alone a high-earning individual such as Britney Spears under a conservatorship. So that's the first point. Let me get to my second point, then my third point, and then we'll wrap up, and then we're going to move to kittens and rainbows next time because I really want to talk about Ted Lasso. This was a really hard one to write. You wanted my take on it. I'm going to give it to you, but we're going to move on to better things in the future because I want to lift people up. The point of these YouTube videos is not to drag people down. If you're going through a hard time, if you're going through a divorce, probate, anything that can take your mind off of a difficult time, I want you to come here. But sometimes, let's be honest, we want to see people in a worse situation than ourselves. We look to our stars to think, oh, well, we're having a hard day. They're having it even harder. So the Britney Spears case would certainly qualify. Second aspect of the case we want to talk about, we must be missing some information. Obviously, we are not able to view the entire court file, and there may be a very legitimate reason why Britney Spears was placed under a conservatorship, or at least that's what one would think, right? But there again, that's the rub with this case. Is this merely a means for her family to control her fortune and no more than family drama involving a battle for money and control over the Spears estate, Britney Spears estate? Unfortunately, we may never know the answer to this very important question. And this may be as a result of Britney's own response to being placed under conservatorship. And I think her response to being placed under conservatorship provides some important lessons to anyone who is a conservatee or a conservator, is concerned about a family member who's been placed or is in danger of being placed under a conservatorship. As Britney stated in her audio recording this summer, heard around the world, as she stated to Judge Penny at the time, she doesn't want to have to take another psychological exam in order to be evaluated to determine whether it is safe for her to no longer be under a conservatorship. Again, I think this is not legal advice, but I think this is a bad move on Britney's part, on anyone's part who is subject or potentially subject to a conservatorship. You want to take that psychological exam to show the court you can function, or at least that would be the case here. So here is my conclusion and my third point, an observation, if you will, and it kind of stands as opposed to my second point, and it is worth noting. The person who evaluated Britney was actually a dementia doctor, and it was somebody hired by the Spears family. So if you are going to be evaluated, you need to be careful on who the doctors are, okay? I'll get more to that in a minute, but this is my third observation about the case, and then I'm not going to say anything else about the case because I want to move on to kittens and rainbows. This is all a battle between the press and the Spears family for control of Britney's fortune and really the money-making machine she became for years. For years, her family has been able to insulate her from the press, in part because of the conservatorship and their concerns over the press's undue influence and access to Britney. And those are legitimate concerns. They would be for any family member who's watching a loved one really being hounded by the press, as Britney was, and as we all saw her meltdown many, many years ago. But I was really disgusted as I watched the video Britney versus Spears, which I believe just premiered on Netflix. I'm sure the documentarians who are women, I'm sure they love Britney. I know they're fans, but make no mistake, I sense that they are profiteering off of her fame as well. That's my take. I'm not going to divulge the details of the Britney versus Spears video, but it is worth watching. And as you watch, think to yourself, what do the documentarians, the press in general, stand to gain from the end of this conservatorship? So that's all I'm going to say about that. So in conclusion, I think whether this conservatorship ends or goes on for Britney, the damage to this family and to Britney is already done. Does Britney need a conservatorship? Possibly. It's hard to assess when we don't know her diagnosis and what effect it has on her abilities. And a diagnosis in and of itself is nothing unless it's affecting her abilities. And judging from the fact that she can still work and earn a living, it really raises a question whether it's affected her ability in a manner that would necessitate a conservatorship and that she'd be placed under a conservatorship. So let me leave you with this cliffhanger. And this goes back to the doctor who evaluated Britney, or allegedly evaluated Britney. It's now questionable whether he ever evaluated Britney. I'll leave you with this cliffhanger from Britney versus Spears on Netflix. There is a portion in the film wherein a geriatric psychiatrist who diagnosed Brittany with dementia for the purpose of beginning the conservatorship could and would not verify whether he actually ever evaluated Britney Spears. So the plot thickens for Britney fans. But as for me, as I said before, I'm moving on to happier things, because that is the point, guys. We need to be lifting each other up. I want to lift our clients up. Anyone, if you're going through a difficult divorce or a court battle or just a tough time, we want you to break through all of that. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to have some happier posts later. We're going to do a book challenge. It's called the Yellow Book Challenge. I've got 2 yellow books I'm reviewing. But next time, I want to talk about Ted Lasso. Guys, gals, anyone going through a hard time. And yes, this show has an interesting take on divorce for those family law enthusiasts. Watch this show. Whenever I'm in a rotten mood, this show lifts me up and gives me faith in humanity. I know that sounds like a bold statement, but really, you have to watch the show, and I think that's why it's resonated with so many people in such a dark time. The Spears case, not so much. So what are your thoughts on the Spears case? What are your thoughts? What is ailing you? Please subscribe to our channel if you like this video. You can reach out to me. I would love to know what's ailing you and any ideas you have for our show. My phone number, 864-527-0413. And you can also email me at melissa@themillerlawfirmpa.com. Or you can check out our website, www.themillerlawfirmpa.com. Until then, folks, hope everyone has a great weekend. Eat, drink, and be merry, and art, law, and entertain to your heart's content. I hope everyone has a great one. See you next time. Bye-bye.